Hello everyone, so today's patient is a 23-year-old female who has primary infertility. Both the partners are being investigated and the lady was sent for hysterosalpingography, that is HSG examination. Since HSG investigation has to be done between a particular time period, we gave the appointment between day 7 to day 12 of the menstrual cycle because of two reasons. First, in the pre-ovulatory phase, the chances of her being pregnant are almost nil. Secondly, in the proliferative phase, that is the pre-ovulatory phase between day 7 to day 12, the endometrium is thin. So, via the HSG examination, the endometrial cavity will be better opacified and better delineated with the help of iodinated contrast. Second thing, we rule out that she is not suffering from any pelvic infection. So, we get endometrial aspirate and AFB, that is HCG fast bacilli is negative. We just ensure that. Third thing, before the procedure on the day of examination, we give two injections, that is analgesics and antispasmodic to the patient so that the spasm gets decreased and she doesn't feel the spasm or pain. And sometimes few clinicians gives antibiotics also. So we perform the procedure. There is no need to take any scout image or the plain radiograph, and we can just omit that. So let's see what are the findings in our case. So this is the HSG image. We can see that the endometrial lining is smooth, so there is no endometritis and there is no filling defect in the endometrial cavity. If there is a filling defect, we have to see whether it is constant in all the films and it is having the same position, then it will be a true lesion like submucosal fibroid or endometrial polyp can be there. But if the filling defect changes its position in different films, then it will be some air bubble which is changing its position. So we have to be careful. And then third thing, there is no kind of irregularity or linear filling defects or lucencies which can be there in the Asherman syndrome or adhesions. Then we have to look at this part. This is the part of cornua and this is left cornua. So beyond the cornual part, we are not seeing opacification of the fallopian tube. No isthmus ampullary part is seen here, and similarly no isthmus or ampullary part is seen here. And forget about the loculated or free intraperitoneal spill. So any newcomer or any novice person will comment that there is bilateral cornual block and he will just give that report. But we have to keep that possibility that sometimes because the block is bilaterally symmetrical, it may be a possibility that she has not received antispasmodic drug, and it might be because of spasm which can be there in a normal patient also. So in such kind of scenario, we should say that yes, bilateral cornual block is there, tube is not opacified beyond the cornual part, but it might be because of the spasm. So we have to repeat the procedure in the next cycle between day 7 to day 12. And if again in the next cycle the same picture comes, then we should give the possibility of bilateral cornual block, and in that case the gynecologist will hysteroscopically examine the uterus and she will also confirm that. So in the first go, it will not be a wise step to label that it is bilateral cornual block, because sometimes in normal patient also, when she doesn't receive the antispasmodic drug via injection before the procedure, that kind of appearance may come which will be bilaterally symmetrical.